Welcome back, McFly subscribers. We're continuing our mayfly dry fly series with a fly that uses a really interesting hackle technique. This is called the Paraloop Emerger, and you're going to find out why this technique is worth learning and using. This is McFly Angler.
And it starts now.
Okay, let's get started. Place the hook securely in your vise. For a hook, I'm using Resin's barbless dry fly 100 in size 16. This is a standard length dry fly hook with a down eye. Oh, and it's barbless. For thread, I will be using Viva's 10-aught in brown. This is a flat thread that is extremely strong for its diameter. And I actually snagged you guys a deal with Vivas recently. More on that later in the video. Start your thread right behind the hook eye and snip or snap off the waist. Then bring your thread down to the hook bend. For the tail, I will be using this pheasant feather that I found loose on my tying desk, but you can really use whatever you want here. CDL feathers offer a nice mottled look and stiff fibers, or you could use larger feathers from the back of a rooster cape, but I wanted softer fibers here to imitate more of a trailing shuck. Alright, align half a dozen fibers and rip them off the stem, then measure out a tail about half the length of the hook shank and tie this in at the back of the fly. You could tie it a bit longer if you want, totally up to you. Now let's make even wraps up the hook shank to about the 1/3 mark, and then snip off the waist tail fibers. Bring your thread back down to about halfway down the hook shank, and now for the body. I will be using turkey biots. Rip one off the feather, and then clip the fragile tip off. Turkey biots have a ridge side, and also a smoother, almost translucent side. And we want to tie this in with the smooth side facing up so it wraps correctly. Capture the biot with one wrap, and then pull it down so the tip reaches to the clipped off portion of the tail. Then tie this down all the way to the base of the tail, and then bring your thread back up to that 1/3 mark. Tying the biot in like this helps maintain a smooth taper. Now spread a small amount of super glue onto the thread base, and then grab the biot with some hackle pliers, and start winding up the hook shank. You want to make sure that the smooth edge doesn't cover the ridges, and since the biot naturally gets wider further up the feather, the segmentation will gradually widen as well as you wrap forward. And once you reach your thread, capture the biot and clip off the excess. Now for the post. This starts similar to a parachute post, and I'll be using Polypro yarn today. However, this yarn is a bit too thick, so I'm going to split it in half, and then clip the tip so it's squared off. Tie this in so it reaches back to the start of the biot body, and usually people tie these with something called a gallows tool, which holds the post under tension. But I don't have one, and I'm guessing many of you don't either. So here's a trick I found that helps stiffen the post. Take some thin UV resin like this Solarez Ultra Thin and paint a small amount onto the base of that post. Now I probably went a little bit too far up the post here, but once you cure it with your UV light, it stiffens the post and makes the next steps much easier. Okay, now let's grab some hackle. I have this beautiful quarter saddle from Whiting. These are Cree feathers, and I selected one sized around a 16. But one advantage of this style is that you can often upsize the hackle a bit if you want. But either way, strip off some of the fibers at the base to expose the stem, and then tie this in along the side of the hook up to the post. Now for the thorax. I will be using some fine and dry dubbing in this tan color, but you could also use peacock herl or other dubbing blends if you prefer. We only need a small amount here. And dub it onto your thread in a thin noodle, and then wrap under the hackle, and then slightly back to the abdomen to cover any thread wraps. Try to form a smooth, even thorax, and end close to the hook eye. Honestly, I should have added a little bit more dubbing near the hook eye here, so do a slightly better job than I did. But now we'll start wrapping the hackle up the stiffened post, but don't let go, or you'll be starting over. Now this step is a little bit tricky, because if you pull too hard, the hackle can pop off the post. But too light, and the wraps won't stay tight enough. Just practice a bit, and you'll quickly find the right pressure. Once you reach the top, pull the post forward and check if it reaches close to the hook eye. Now I felt mine was a little bit too long here, so I backed up a few wraps. But once you're happy with the length, continue wrapping the hackle down the post. And now to capture the hackle. This is another tricky step, and it's almost impossible not to trap a few fibers. So just get the hackle secured, and then trim off any fibers blocking the hook eye. Trim off the excess hackle, and then brush the fibers rearward and pull the post forward. As you do this, try to keep the fibers from pointing downward. Capture the post material, and then pull it upward to make a couple wraps underneath it. This would have been a bit easier if I hadn't taken that UV resin so far up the post. But now trim off the post, and I'll leave a short tag here sticking forward, almost giving it a look of a crippled mayfly. Whip finish underneath the post tag, cement the head with a bit more of that UV resin, and the fly is now finished. So you might ask, why not just tie a parachute fly? Both styles ride low in the water and offer excellent flotation, but the hackle on top of these Paraloops tends to be much denser, creating a different footprint and silhouette on the water. And for picky trout, sometimes a slightly different silhouette is all that it takes. If trout are used to seeing standard parachutes drifting over them all day, then something just a little bit different like this might be enough to trigger a take. Another huge advantage of the Paraloop style is that you aren't limited to just hackle. You can use deer hair spun onto a dubbing loop, CDL as well in dubbing loops, or even mix different materials together to create all kinds of unique effects. So what do you all think? You going to give this Paraloop technique a try? Alright, well, we're now wrapping up this mayfly dry fly series, and this box will definitely be hitting the water with me next time I run into a mayfly hatch. We started off this series with the Wally wing, a technique that creates some of the most elegant and detailed mayfly wings out there. Then we tied up the Quill Gordon, a classic fly that has influenced dry flies for well over a century. Last week we tied up the extended body mayfly, where we created realistic extended bodies from dubbing and deer hair for some beautiful mayfly imitations. And now we're ending the series with the Paraloop technique. Next week I will be starting a brand new series for June focused on poppers. From small panfish poppers to large bass bugs, and even saltwater poppers, because there's nothing better than tossing a popper on a summer morning and watching aggressive topwater takes. So make sure you're subscribed and click that bell notification so you don't miss any future videos like this bass popper. By the way, those fly boxes you saw earlier, I do sell them. They're magnetic backed with open compartments, which makes them perfect for small nymphs and dry flies. The magnets are strong enough that you can turn the box upside down and even give it a shake, and everything stays put. So you're not losing flies every time you bump the box or drop it, which is great for me because I'm pretty clumsy. Now I've got them available on my Amazon storefront with free shipping. If you want to check them out, link is below. As promised, here's that Vivas deal. Their VIP program is $99, and that gets you 10% off of everything. Also a $120 gift card and a free shirt. And if you use my link below, they'll even throw in a free bobbin holder as well. Or if you don't want the VIP, you can still get 10% off just by using that link. Also, check out my sponsor Resin Fly. They made the hooks I use today, but also make some awesome fly rods and other gear at amazing prices. They're offering you all 15% off your first order. Just use that code McFly at checkout to get the discount. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by clicking the like button. And if you could share my videos with all your fishing friends, I would really appreciate it. It would really help me out. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.